Today we're gonna recite Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Dedhar family and Jaxi family and Ghulam Hussein family. Good afternoon, everybody.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي. يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعضاء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء، 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم، يا الله 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 يا محمود بحق محمد، يا عالي بحق علي، يا فاطر بحق فاطمة، يا محسن بحق الحسن، يا قديم الإحسان بحق الحسين. انصر شيعة الحسين يا الله، انصر شيعة المؤمنين يا الله. اللهم اكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة يا الله، اقضي حوائج شيعة الحسين يا الله، شافي وعافي المرضى من شيعة الحسين يا الله. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين يا الله، آمن شيعة الحسين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج، واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل أنظارنا بنظرة منا إليك. اللهم نقسم عليك بالزهراء فاطمة إلا ما جعلتنا من شيعة الزهراء ورزقتنا شفاعة الزهراء يا الله يا الله يا الله، لقضاء الحوائج ولشفاء المرضى ولكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة ولتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات لا سيما أرواح أموات شهداء البحرين والشهداء من المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من يقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا نبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, for this week, we will discuss and recite verses 11 through 14 of Sura Yaseen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب. فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون. إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. صدق الله العلي Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, for the translation, we will head over to this. This is, by the way, the translation of Ali Quli Qara'i. This is one of the, I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before, but one of the two translations I recommend. This, as well as the translation of Sheikh Muhammad Sarwar. Now, for verse 11, you can only warn someone who follows the reminder and fears the all beneficent in secret. So give him the good news of forgiveness and a noble reward. Indeed, it is we who revive the dead and write what they have sent ahead, and their effects which they left behind, and we have figured everything in the manifest Imam. Cite for them the example of the inhabitants of the town when the apostles came to it. When we sent to them 2 apostles, they impunged both of them. Then we reinforced them with a third, and they said, "We have indeed been sent to you." Now, we'll jump back to this website to see the Mus'haf version of the verses. Okay, so for this week, again, something I've been realizing as each week I'm doing this, there's so much to discuss in one verse alone at times, and sometimes one verse doesn't have many rules, but you may find that over the few weeks and months I will repeat some rules because just of what I may have discussed in one lesson or one video, which in that particular letter wasn't available or in any of those verses. So I'll have to come back to it and just to reinforce that idea of, hey, this rule also applies, but look at it from this lens, from this letter, and see what happens. But in this case, we will discuss in these set of verses a med. Now, med, as you may know, there's so many of them. You know, it will take ages to go through all of it. Inshallah, in due time, we will touch upon them. However, in this case, I wish to examine giving 2 harakat or 4 harakat, depending on the med, and why you may do it and why you may not. Now, when we look at the verse 11, you don't have any examples which stand out at you. So we'll jump to verse 12. You have at the ending of this, you have a med on there, and then we'll come back to that. You have another one, verse 13, ja'aha, and I believe there's one more. Yes, inna, you have in idh arsalna, and then at the end, inna ilaykum. Now, the way in which I recited, also, I will, inshallah, in the next few weeks, I'll touch upon these different speeds of recitation, which is important and maybe a foreign subject, but inshallah, we'll get to that. The way I recited these, so I gave all of them 2 harakat and only 1 4, because this one is, a med muttasil. It's combined, and you have to, as a minimum, give 4 harakat. You can also go up to 6, but 2 and 4 is like the average or the rate or speed, rate or amount, which we tend to allot, because it's easier to manage. For example, you can give it in some, like even the other ones, or is it fi or inna or arsalna, you can give it 4. You're allowed to give it more, or even 3, but it's harder to manage because 3 is an odd number, and it's another thing. When you're reciting, again, it depends on the context of who you're reciting to, where you're reciting, and how of a sensitive environment it is. There are so many things you have to manage, and I'm speaking from a reciter lens, and I hope and I know there are people in the community who wish to become reciters of the Quran and take it on to another level, but there are so many things to manage in your head. Think of it, you're processing tajweed. You have to think about the reciting the Quran properly with the rules. You have to process your voice, your breath, the melody. These are 4 things you have to manage at the same time, and you can't let your guard down on any of them, because the moment, and it happens, even we're human, it slips. you're like, okay, I need to focus on the tajweed, my voice, and next thing you know, you run out of breath. Or you're so focused on the breath and melody, and you may slip a rule, and you'll make a mistake, or it won't be as strong of a rule, applying the rule strongly, because your entire focus, and it shifts. Sometimes, you may have recited this surah or verse so many times, like, okay, I got this, I'll handle this properly. And you're gonna focus on something else, like my voice or my melody, and it slips. The verse you recited hundreds of times, and it like comes out to something different. It happens, and it's fine. We make these mistakes. My intention is to, of course, it's a reminder to myself first, but it's to highlight these things which you may have never, heard of or ever thought about. So in order to the next recitation we do, we keep these things in mind. So in this case, I did 2 harakat here, and for this one I did 4, because that is the minimum I'm allowed to. And again, it's easier to manage. Now, I can do the rest 4 as well, as I said, but why don't I do this? Because in the recitation speed that I'm reciting, I need to be smart and preserve each breath and give only what I have to give. And again, we'll go over this in the recitation speeds, and possibly in the 2 weeks from today. But the point I'm making is that when you're reciting and you know what the minimums and the maximums you're allowed, try to give it what you think is best instead of overreaching. Someone may have the breath to give, and some person may not have the capacity breath wise, or they haven't built it up in order to give that. So therefore, as a rule of precaution, you give it the minimums you possibly can for a better recitation and an experience. And over time, if you feel like, okay, I could pull this off, I will do it. For example, in verse 14, I'm going to attempt to recite this in the slow manner, which is the slowest you could possibly go. And you may or may not, I may not make it, but let's see. But I want to demonstrate, what happens when I try to allow the maximums, or give it the maximum time allowed. إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا. So as you can see, I didn't even take a proper breath in the beginning, in the first place. I ended at faqalu. And again, there's so many tangents I'm going to, but I'll keep it brief. I ended there because I knew I wasn't going to make it. Or I would stop at inna ilaykum. Like, instead I stopped at faqalu. And then I'll go back to repeat because, I'll go over the meaning right here. But, we this is when something's about to be said. So I stopped there, and I'll go back to when I finish the verse. فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. So these are the little things that jump at me. Again, there's so many different things, and I'll try to keep it brief, but I hope this gives you guys a different perspective and a different lens to improve your recitation for next time, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Welcome and thank you for joining us in our 3rd session of Tajweed and Tafsir, where we're discussing Sura Yaseen, and this week we'll be discussing verses 11 through 14 of Sura Yaseen. There are some really fantastic and amazing points that begin, and this conversation, inshallah, will continue over the next few sessions of the verses of Surah Yaseen. So as we begin, we look at verse number 11 that starts our conversation today. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. Here Allah begins the conversation by telling us that certainly you can only warn him who follows the reminder. This statement of who follows the reminder is differentiating between groups of people. That there are those people who will benefit from the warning and the lessons of Rasulullah and those who won't benefit from the lessons of Rasulullah. The differentiating character between those two that will benefit, Allah is saying that only those will benefit are those man ittaba'a dhikra. Ittiba' is to follow. Taba'iyya to follow. Ittaba'a dhikra. Dhikr in the Arabic language refers to remind or to remember. And one of the titles of the Holy Quran is a-dhikr, is a-dhikra, that it is the reminder. Nahnu nazzalna dhikra. We are the ones who sent down the reminder. Here Allah as well is referring to the Quran as dhikr. And Allah is saying that, O Prophet, only those who have interest in following the Quran and will follow the Quran will benefit from your warnings and from your teachings about preparing them for the hereafter. An important lesson that we learn from this is the significance we have to make sure that we pay attention to and we stay attached to the Holy Quran. The benefit of the example of the Holy Prophet is for those who are attached to the Holy Quran. This is the first quality. Next, Allah continues, وَخَشْيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Here's the second attribute, that they fear Allah. Khashya is to fear. Khashya ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is Allah. It's one of his titles, the beneficent. Bil-Ghayb. Ghaybat, as we know, is the unseen, or is that which is where they are not seen. This characteristic is very important. Allah pairs these two together to show you what the complete attribute of someone who can attain salvation in the hereafter. That one, there are those إِنَّمَا تُنذِرُ مَنِ اتَّبَعَ الذِّكْرَ. The first is that they follow the example of the Quran. The second is that they fear Allah when they are not seen by others, as opposed to the munafiq. A munafiq is a hypocrite. And a hypocrite is someone who in the apparent nature in front of people behaves according to the rules of Islam. But when he is alone, he violates the rules of Allah and commits sins against Allah because he says that no one can see me. So Allah is saying that truly the one who shall be saved is not the one who only did actions in good, but that he needs to be one who fears Allah in private. So we see Allah makes the statement. He says, إِنَّمَا تُنذِرُ مَنِ اتَّبَعَ الذِّكْرَ وَخَشْيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ. That when you find someone who possesses these two characteristics, that they are attached to the Quran and that they fear Allah in private, that these will be the ones who will benefit from your warning and these will be the ones who will be successful in the akhirah. فَبَشِّرَهُ بِمَغْفِرَةٍ وَأَجْرٍ كَرِيمٍ. Then, O Prophet, give glad tidings, announce to him that Allah will forgive his sins and will give him a noble reward and a great reward. This concept of who will benefit from the warnings of the Holy Prophet and the warnings that Allah has issued is discussed further in this Quran as well too, and inshallah, and in this surah specifically, and we'll get to more of that going forward. Verse number 12 has a profound and deep conversation within it, and it's going to take us a little while, and hopefully we'll get to more than just verse number 12. But verse number 12 is a fantastic discourse and one of the important and clear verses that it's useful for us to know about and associate ourselves with. Allah says, "Inna nahnu nuhyi al-mawta wa naktubu ma qaddamu atharahum wa kulla shay'in ahsaynahu fi imamin mubin." Here Allah is describing, and this is the warning that Allah is providing. Inna nahnu nuhyi al-mawta, that certainly we will give life to the dead. Everything that has died will come back to life. This is a warning. This is the indhar that we're talking about, that the warning that Allah issues, that, "O people, don't imagine that this life is the only thing that you have, but rather there will come a time where you will come back to life. A life will continue after that. Inna nahnu nuhyil mauta." Allah making this statement in the Quran is a guarantee, is a certainty that Allah brings the dead back to life, and that existence is more than this life that you are living. And then Allah continues, وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم. And we write down, and we have written down whatever they have sent before. And literally the translation, آثَارَهُم, is their footprints. This statement, we write down whatever it is that they have done and their footprints, has a number of different translations. One is to say that this مَا قَدَّمُوا, what they have sent ahead, وَآثَارَهُم, and the effects of those actions. It refers to, there are three explanations that are given. One is to say that Allah is talking about all of those actions that they perform but have no benefit, no harm, no nothing. That Allah says, when we account for every human being, the account will include everything that they did that had benefit and purpose, and everything that didn't have benefit and purpose. Sometimes when we keep a ledger or an account, we focus on only those things that are significant, are impactful. And here Allah is saying that no, when Allah takes account, it is of everything. Whether it was something that had no benefit, مَا قَدَّمُوا, or something that had benefit and impact, وَآثَارَهُم. That both of these items will be included in the register that a person will be held accountable for when they are brought back to life on the Day of Judgment. The second explanation says that no, what we believe this means, in the Mufassirin, Majma' al-Bayan, it elaborates on this. It says that the second explanation is that مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم is to say that there are some actions a person performs that the benefit is only to him, and he performs the action and it goes away. The second is an action a person performs and it lives on after him. It creates a sunnah after him that people follow. And that is the athar, the impact of that action. So Allah is saying that, O mankind, you will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment, not just for what you performed, but also the impact you left on this earth. So when Allah says, Inna nahnu nuhyil mauta wa naktubu ma qaddamu wa atharahum, is saying that when you are raised, you will have to answer for both of these things, that which you did yourself and how you spent your life, as well as the impact you left on this earth and what happened and how people followed your example after you. Now, sometimes there are good examples that we leave behind, starting a new tradition that's helpful to people, assisting people, starting a new practice, teaching people salat, teaching people the Quran. All of these are the good actions that we leave behind that Allah is saying that I will give you the benefit for them, and it will be included in your book of deeds and in your responsibilities. The other thing that we leave behind sometimes is, God forbid, an evil action, a negative, for example, trend that we start, a misbehavior we start. We start a culture of, for example, backbiting. We start a culture of lying. We teach people how to cheat or to steal. As long as that effect lives on, the athar, the impact of our actions, we will be held accountable for that as well too. So here Allah is saying, وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم. The third explanation of this, what it is that is an impact, what you perform, and what is the athar, is actually a riwayah that's included in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih al-Muslim, that is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, who says that Banu Salma or Banu Salim was a tribe that lived in the city of Medina. And this tribe, now the way Medina was situated was each tribe had a district, had a location where the tribe lived all together, or a mahalla, an environment. After the coming of the Holy Prophet, when Masjid al-Nabawi was established in the city of Medina, the Banu Salma found that their tribe, their location of their tribe, was very far from Masjid al-Nabawi. So they came to the Holy Prophet and they complained. They said, Ya Rasulullah, You've established the masjid, but it's so far away from us that it's difficult for us to come from so far away from where our mahalla is, where our kabila is, and walk all the way to the masjid to join you for prayers every day. We want your permission to move our tribe from the far away location to a much closer location so it's easier for us to join in salat with everyone, with you. And that Rasulullah stopped them from this action and said that no. And here's where the impact comes in, that athar, one of the translations of athar is footprints. Rasulullah says to them that certainly inna a'zamun nasa ajran fi salati ab'adahum ilayha mumshiyun fa'ab'adahum. That here Rasulullah says to them that certainly the greatest, the person who attains the greatest reward for participating in a salat is the one who has to walk or come from the furthest away to join it. Rasulullah said to the Banu Salma that instead of looking at it that, for example, it is inconvenient for you to come to the masjid to pray with everyone, realize and understand that Allah has, for every footstep that you take from your place of living to your place of salat, Allah writes a great reward for you for this action. Therefore, ensure that you stay, even if you are far away, you continue to come for salat and acknowledge that this is not a difficulty for you that you come from far away, but rather Allah has designated you the honor that you receive the most reward for it. This interpretation, the third interpretation that we take a look at, مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم, the feet and the footprints of walking to the masjid, shows us one of the significances that even for us, many times when we think of a program happening at the Hussainiyah, and may Allah reopen our Hussainiyahs from the restrictions that have been placed upon us, is that we imagine that, oh, well, the center is far away. Yeah, they're beginning with salat, but we'll get there after salat. We'll get there when the program starts. We'll pray at home and then we'll come. Here it should be a lesson for us at the importance from the hadith of the Holy Prophet about the significance of that salat that is performed in jama'at, even if it is far away from us. That the fact that it is far away from us and we make an effort for that prayer, the reward that we receive for that prayer will be great and exceptional and above and beyond what others who are closer, and it is easier for them to join that prayer. So the lesson that was given to Banu Salma about paying attention to the fact that the reward with Allah is greater for where they have to come from is a reminder to us that when, for example, we have the opportunity to participate in jama'at, don't look at the convenience. Is it easy for me to do? Is it far away for me to do? Will it take me a long time to get there? Rather look at and see and realize that if it is far away, there is a great reward with it. This verse continues, which is why I said today it's very exciting. We'll finish on this verse and inshallah we'll continue the tafsir of the rest of these verses next week in our next session. Is that Allah now says, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ, and for everything, أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. We have recorded it in a clear writing, إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. This interpretation, or this translation, that everything we have figured and we have accounted for everything in a clear writing or a clear print, Imamin Mubin. This term Imamin Mubin has multiple translations, and this is where it becomes interesting. The first of the interpretations of this وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ is explained as being that Allah has taken account for everything that has come into existence in Lawh Mahfuz. That there is nothing that exists on this earth except that it is recorded, and its numbers and its presence and its utilization is something Allah has preserved in Lawh Mahfuz. That everything in creation is something that is accounted for and something that Allah has preserved with Him. This is the first interpretation. The second is that our book of deeds is called Mubin because it is manifest and clear, and that there is nothing that will be ambiguous in our book of deeds. So Allah makes the statement, He says, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ, that the knowledge of everything and everything that you do is clearly recorded in your book of deeds. Therefore, all of these actions that we're talking about, مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم, is something that is certainly entrusted to this book of yours, of your a'mal, of your good and bad deeds, and you'll be held accountable for it on the day of judgment, and nothing will be mistaken and nothing will be lost. So since the book of our deeds is called Mubin, and it's known as Mubin because it will be clear, it will be manifest, there will be nothing hidden in it, there will be nothing ambiguous in it that is this action worthy of reward or punishment. Therefore, Allah is saying that all of these actions, مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارُهُمْ, all of them you'll find written in your book of deeds and you'll be held accountable for it. The third explanation comes to the fact that what we see is this translation of this statement literally means that the knowledge of everything that exists is included in Imamin Mubin. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي Imamin Mubin. What is Imamin Mubin? Now, the narration comes from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam that he explains in the time of Rasulullah, the companions seeing this statement, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. Imagine that one of the divine books that was sent by Allah is referred to as Imamin Mubin, and within it is included all of the information of everything that is important and valuable. So Imam al-Baqir says that two of these companions came to our Holy Prophet and they said that certainly the Torah is what is, and they asked the Holy Prophet, is the Torah what Allah means by Imamin Mubin? The Imam that is manifest, that is clear, that possesses knowledge of everything, that the Torah was a detailed book of laws and requirements and had much information that the Bani Israel would follow in detail. And Rasulullah replied that no, this is not what is meant by Imamin Mubin, that clear manifest Imam, that clear manifest authority upon which all information is included, is not the Torah. So then they imagine that the Injil then, that was brought next, the Bible, would be this manifest Imam. So they said, is it the Injil then, the Bible? And Rasulullah replied, no. The Quran was in process of revelation still at this point in time. So they asked, is this Quran, when it will be completed, will this be the Imamin Mubin? Will this be the one that contains knowledge of everything? And Rasulullah replied, no, that is not what is meant by this. These companions became a little befuddled. They said that, what is it then? What is Imamin Mubin? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam turns and he says, verily, هذا Imam al-Mubin, while pointing at Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That Ali ibn Abi Talib is the one with whom Allah has deposited knowledge of everything, and he is the Imam over everything. The Holy Prophet then turned to the people and he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, there is no branch of knowledge Allah did not teach me, and I in turn have not conveyed, there is no branch of knowledge that I have not conveyed to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Certainly Allah has given me wisdom, and I have given it to Ali. Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha. That certainly I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gateway. Rasulullah in this third explanation, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ, elaborates and explains in detail. He says that all that exists, everything that can be considered knowledge and guidance, is something Allah has deposited with me, so that I may be the guide and the warner that we talked about. إِنَّمَا تُنذِرُ, that the only one you can warn, that can take benefit of your warning, Ya Rasulullah. I have given you everything. You have the responsibility to warn, but the one who will benefit is only the one who will follow the Quran and will be the one who worships Allah in secret. That now Rasulullah is saying, all of that knowledge that I possess, to continue my message and ensure that the warning continues after me, I have taken all of this knowledge and given it to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Ali ibn Abi Talib in turn is the Imam that you should follow after me, to ensure that my words of warning that you should benefit from reach all of you people. So we see that this verse is one of the clear verses and decisive verses of proofs of the authority of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and that he is the one in whom all of the knowledge is possessed, such that he can be the warner and the guide that benefits all of humanity. This is why Imam Ali alayhi salam, before his life ended, was the one who could claim Saluni, Saluni, qabla an tafkatuni. Ask me, before you are bereft of me, before you lose me. In verse number 13, we see the same, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابَ الْقَرْيَةِ إِذْ جَاءَهَا الْمُرْسَلُونَ, that and set out for them an example of the people of the town when a messenger came to them. From verse number 13 begins a discussion about the disciples of Nabi Isa sent to the city of Antioch. And inshallah, for the next verses until approximately the 30 or 32nd verse, this conversation about the warning given to the people of Antioch will continue, and we'll elaborate the details of this story in our next discussion. Join us next time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين أيها الشهيد بكربلاء. السلام على التسعة المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي التقي الجواد وعلي بن محمد النقي الهادي والحسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والأمر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته.